Hello? Hello, Matthew.
Hi there.
Do you hear me?
I yeah, I didn't know whether you were going to call me or I was going to call you, so I thought I'd better call you.
No? Thanks, because I was gonna do that in 2 minutes.
Would you want me to? Do you want me to hang up and you call me back,
Uh,
or do you want to carry on now?
no, it's okay. I just want to turn off my recorder.
Uh-huh.
So, how are you, Matthew?
I'm okay. It's no, I haven't really done this before. I mean, I've had the Skype set up. I think I had a quick tryout with a friend of mine, but this is the first time I've called anyone in another country.
Uh, I didn't record it, but I use it all the time.
Uh-huh.
So, can we start now? Okay. I think it's going. All my recorders. So, how much time do we have?
Sorry.
Uh, how much time do we have?
Well, sorry, I didn't understand that.
Now? I mean, how much time do we have?
As far as I know, a couple of hours. I mean, if you want, I mean, I may get a phone call. I may have to answer the phone, but
Oh, no, no problem. We can always make a pause or do a part of the interview today and another part tomorrow if you want to.
I think I'd rather get it all done today because I'm going to have other things to do tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with this moment, if you
Uh,
don't mind. Uh, do you still in play music, or you went to computers and you finished with music?
I wouldn't say I've finished with it completely. I don't really want to have to rely on music to earn a living. I would rather, if I've got to do something just for the money, I'd rather do computers. If I'm going to do music, I'll just do it for the fun. Um, but right now I feel a bit like I need a break from music. I want to just take a rest.
Yeah. Uh, may I ask what kind of computer business do you do? Because as for me, I'm taking a course in Java.
Hmm.
Uh, what language do you program?
Well, I've done all kinds of languages, but what I tend to do more than anything else these days is PHP and databases, like SQL.
SQL. Yeah,
Yeah.
familiar, very familiar. Because at the moment I'm doing a study, just a project for my studies. It's an online bank system. So
Uh-huh.
SQL, yeah, I know that. On to music. Let's start with A Salty Dog Returns, that
Hmm.
you just reissued on Angel Air. Uh, do you agree that it's a bit of odd one out for you because it's not so much of a rock album, it's more new age?
I never thought it as New Age because New Age always, to me, always sounds a bit sort of wishy-washy, and it doesn't seem to have New Age doesn't seem to have very strong melody lines. It's the idea with New Age is if you can actually listen to a piece of music and you can remember afterwards how it goes, then it's not New Age. New Age is just kind of you listen to it, and you think, oh yeah, that's nice, and then when it finishes, you think. I can't remember anything about that. That's New Age, right?
It's it's hanging on to the moment, and it depends on who plays it. For instance, it's hard for me to remember Mike Oldfield stuff, but if it's Rick Wakeman, doing new age, so it's a bit closer to what you do.
Yeah, I must admit, I've never really heard much of Rick Wakeman. That's something I don't know. I just seem to have missed out. Um, but it's I suppose it's not really the kind of music I tend to be interested in. I mean, if you're talking about keyboard players, I just as an example, I suppose I'd be more interested in Keith Emerson, say, than Rick Wakeman, because he's more rock and roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Rick Wakeman.
it depends on which album you're talking about, because Wakeman has about 100 albums, so there is something to choose from. So I regarding Salty Dog Returned, I met a strange thing. Someone wrote that it's a collection of demos, but to me it sounds like a complete album. So what is it in fact?
Well, I mean, I would say if you're talking about the original release, I know I would agree that was a collection of demos, except not even demos because they were things I just did for fun. I never ever thought about them being released on a record. That was the last thing I ever thought about. And the only reason that ever happened um, is because I met this American guy called Mike Ober. This is about 20 years ago. He was an American and he was working in England. I don't quite know why or how, but he was working in England and he was very interested in British 60s rock bands. And he'd got to know Jim McCarty out of the Yardbirds and a few other people. And through them, he got in touch with me. And he invited me to come along, and he was doing some recording with getting a whole bunch of these musicians together. He put out this album called The British Invasion All Stars.
Yeah, I know.
This was on his own label called Promised Land Records. You see, so I met him a few times, and then he said to me, "Have you got any unreleased material?" And at the time, I had a little studio, a little 24-track studio, and I used to do stuff there. And I said, "Well, I've got all sorts of odds and ends, things that I've done just for fun, but I never ever thought about getting them released." So he said, "Well, make me up a cassette of what you've got." So I did him a cassette and sent it to him, and he came back to me and said, "Yeah, I want to put this out." So that's how it all started. But it was never ever meant to be an album at all.
But on the original one, there was Green Onions, which is missing
Yeah.
from this one.
Well, I don't have the rights to that. You see, that doesn't belong to me, that one.
But on this release, you renamed some of the tracks. So why?
I only renamed one of them, and that's the like the shadows. Named is because originally, I mean, the title I originally had was a joke, right? Because me and it being like the shadows, so I called it A Whiter Shadow of Pale. The trouble is, everybody misread it. It got mixed up with A Whiter Shade of Pale. People can't tell the difference between shadow and shade. And this caused all sorts of problems, and it ended up with the PRS. Now they've added Brooker and Reed as co-writers to it, which it was just an instrumental which I wrote entirely on my own, and I got fed up with this, so that's why I've retitled it.
And what about Linda's song, Linda's theme?
Oh, well, that was a bit of I'm not quite sure. It was originally no, it was never Linda's song. It was Linda's tune, I believe. But no, because we found out that in the PRS database it had gone in as Linda's theme, and Peter Purnell said, well, this could cause problems, So if it's in the database as Linda's theme, we should call it Linda's theme. So that's the only reason it was changed. But there was always this kind of there was always a mix-up between the two, and I think hopefully now we've resolved the mix-up.
And talking about this White Shadow, you you showed your skill as a guitarist, and you started as a guitarist or bass guitarist?
Well, I started actually as a rhythm guitarist. I was a big fan of Bruce Welch. I didn't think I could play lead guitar. So, but then I switched from rhythm guitar to bass guitar, and really that was just for practical reasons. This was when I was still at school. I was in a little school band, and I had to keep writing out the parts for the bass player, which made it difficult to learn new numbers. And then we realized that, well, it's much easier just to write out chords than to write out a whole bass part. So if I took over bass and we got a rhythm guitarist in, then I could just write him out the chords and we could learn numbers much more quickly. If we were sort of like before we were learning one number a week, we could be learning 3 new numbers a week. You see, so it was only done for that reason. But I was never ever professional as a bass player. Once I left school, once I went professional, I switched to keyboards.
And I mean, it was, I think, more easier because many bass guitarists play keyboards and vice versa. For example, Jack Bruce, he plays bass and keyboards.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure he can play all sorts of things. He's a very talented musician.
No, I mean, it's close, in terms of chords, bass guitar and the keyboards, isn't it?
I think, well, I don't know whether all bass players understand keyboards, but I'd have thought all keyboard players should understand bass.
With a left
because
hand.
that's what exactly, so they should know what a bass player should do. Yeah, I mean, but bass playing is an interesting thing because I've met some very good musicians that are, they're very good. They understand all about the chords and everything, but they just don't have the feel to be a bass player. Whereas some people just do. Some people are just natural bass players. It's instinct, and there's no substitute for this instinct of knowing when to keep it simple, when to sort of stretch out a bit. There's no substitute for instinct for that.
And again, this album, Salty Dog Returns, it's completely instrumental, and there is a tune on one of your previous solo albums which you did for a soundtrack separation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you waited some years before release it, re-record it for your solo album?
Well, I mean, that was the first solo album I had released. So I put it out. I put it out as soon as I could.
But it was in the 70s. It wasn't in 68 when the movie was out.
Well, I didn't make an album then.
But there were rumors that you're gonna release a solo album as early as 67.
Yes, I did kind of. Now I think about it, I think it was 1969. I started to work on a solo album, but I just wasn't ready. The whole thing just fell through.
weren't ready as a composer, as a singer, or just weren't ready to strike on your own outside the band?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
I mean, uh, in which terms you weren't ready as a singer,
Oh,
as a composer?
as an artist, I guess. I mean, the thing is, if you're going to put out an album, I mean, you've got to have like 10 songs at least, um, in with all the lyrics written and everything, and it was just I got halfway through and I realized it was just I wasn't going to make it, I just wasn't going to be able to finish the thing.
Really? I think you should have been quite prolific to write 10 songs in 69. Oh, weren't
Yeah,
you
but
afraid?
I didn't have 10 songs. That's the whole point. I thought I had enough ideas, but no, it didn't work well. I mean, I should have had another producer. It was a mistake, I think, for me to try and do it all on my own.
But you succeeded as producer with Trower, with other artists.
But that's just being a producer, not being the producer and the artist. It's it's a whole different thing to produce yourself. You've got to be very objective about yourself, and sometimes you just can't do that.
So to not be self-indulgent.
It's not even a question of that. It's a question of that. I mean, it works both ways. I mean, you could do something that you think is really good, and a good producer might say, "Well, nah, no, don't bother with that. That's no good." Or you might just do something that you think, I don't know about this. Is it? And the producer says, "That's great. That's really great. This is exactly what we need." You see what I mean? It's very difficult to judge your own work.
And what do you think is your best work as producer?
As producer, if we're talking as the best job that I did,
Yeah.
rather than the best result. I mean, the best result is obviously Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs, but I don't know whether much of that was down to me. I think that was just down to Rob doing a really great piece of music. But my best work, I think, as a producer was probably the Tina Nog album.
So you liked folk rock?
Sorry, say that again.
Did you like folk rock?
Folk rock. I've got very kind of broad tastes. I mean, I like anything if it's good. I mean, I even like Public Enemy, although I'm not a rap fan. But I think they are the best of that kind of music. I mean, I like really good country and western music, but I wouldn't call myself a country and western fan.
Uh, the same goes for me.
Hmm.
They go for me because if I'm asked what is my favorite band, I say, it's the Beatles, and the rest I listen to everything. And
Hmm.
but by the way, talking about Robin Trower, uh, were you with him from the very beginning of his solo career? I mean, there was a band he should have formed with Frankie Miller. Were you involved?
Yeah, no, I never heard them. I mean, I've met Frankie, obviously over the years, and I know he had Clive Bunker, didn't he, from Jethro Tull, and he had Jimmy playing bass but not singing, and he had Frankie Miller on vocals and him on guitar, and all I know is one of the songs on the first album, I Can't Wait Much Longer. Frankie wrote that song. I've never heard Frankie sing it. I've only ever heard Jimmy sing it. Uh, um, my understanding is that I think Frankie could be a difficult character to work with. I mean, he's been involved. He was involved in other bands that kind of that fell apart. I mean, he was doing something with oh, what's his name? The guy Andy Fraser
Yeah, yeah,
from
Andy
Free.
Fraser
Yeah, I
from
mean,
Free. Yeah,
yeah.
I know him. We are in touch. He's in America now.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive. He survived cancer. He has
Oh,
AIDS, but he is very
oh,
much alive.
oh, good. No, for some reason I got the idea he'd gone, but if he's still around, that's really good.
Many thought so, but he made a comeback some years ago.
Uh,
He released a solo
uh,
album. He's very politically minded. He produces now. He has some online strategy of distributing music. He's a
hmm
producer.
hmm
He's a singer now, more than a bass player, but he's alive. He's a survivor.
Mm.
And yeah, Frankie was involved with him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I heard the original demo. I think I heard this through Jimmy. I mean, he had a cassette of the original demo of the what's the song? Does it "I'm a Fool for You, Baby"
Yeah,
or something?
yeah.
Yeah, that.
For Full
Well,
in Love.
the
Full in Love, I think.
From yeah, yeah, yeah. Now the version that got put out on the album, The Rock, was it? The album Frankie put that out on.
I think so,
It'll
but the first version I heard was on the UFO album by the band UFO.
oh, I don't know about that.
No, they covered it.
Oh, it's a cover. Yeah. Well, no, Frankie, as I say, he put it out on The Rock with the band he had at the time, which all sounded a bit sort of laid back and a bit sleepy, you know. But I heard the demo that he'd done with Andy Fraser, and all right, there was no horns or anything, and there was no organ. It was just guitars, but it was just so punchy. It was just, I thought it was way better, the original version. But unfortunately, you know, as I say, Frankie was always a very volatile character, and you know, things tended to sort of like fall apart. You know.
And talking about bass players, uh, Jimmy Dewar, and you also worked with Jimmy Bain.
Jimmy Page.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did a little bit of work with Jimmy. Yeah. It was, I think it was about 4 songs we did. It was around the time that he was getting involved in
Rainbow.
uh, no, in there was after that with Wild Horses. I think that's what
Yeah,
they were called, with
the road band.
Brian
Yeah,
Robertson out of Thin Lizzy, and he was he was involved. The recordings that we did down at the studio here, and oh, that was quite amazing. I mean, it was. I mean, I won't even tell you some of the things that were going on.
it remains unreleased, and no, it's always interesting with the Bane.
Well, I mean, for a start, we used to this studio. All right, I didn't have a at that time. I hadn't got a separate music room to the record the control room. You know what I mean? It was just all one room. So we had to record in the same room, and so everyone had to wear headphones. You see, but when Brian Robertson came down, you know, it's just he wanted the headphones louder, louder, louder. Had to keep turning the headphones up. In the end, everybody was just sitting there holding their headphones away from their ears because it was so loud, you know. But he was happy playing away. You know?
And
No, he's a great guitarist.
but with Bane, you know, there is a certain connection between you and Bane's employer, Richie Blackmore.
Well, I mean, that was a long time ago, though, wasn't it? With Jimmy was in Rainbow. It wasn't for very long, was it?
Yeah, but with Richie, you played with Lord Sutch and
Oh,
Greg.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well, I'd run into Richie a couple of times, actually. I think the first time I met Richie, actually, I was still a bass player. I'd just left school, um, but one of the things I was discovering with bass players was that this was before bass playing became a bit more interesting. You know, in the sort of the 70s, it all kind of you got all this sort of much more funky slap bass and all that kind of thing, and bass became much more. People got more serious about bass, but in the kind of the mid 60s, bass players tended to just play very simple bass parts, and no one really noticed whether they were playing the right notes or not. Nobody really cared. What they wanted bass players to do is they wanted them to be A, to do harmony vocals, and B, they wanted them to move around and have a good image and a good, and I couldn't really do all that. I was just used to stand there and play. Well, a lot of bass players do that now, but in those days, you couldn't really get any work being that kind of a bass player. But then there was they were crying out for organists at the time, so I thought, well, this is silly. I can play keyboards. So I switched. But anyway, before I did switch, I almost got involved in a band with Richie and with actually Freddie Starr. Yeah, it was. Well, it was all because of this drummer, a guy called Ian Broad. I don't know what he's doing now. Not Ian Broad, sorry.
Sorry.
Not Ian Broad. No, I'm getting mixed up. Another Ian. I think I've forgotten his name. I think he was with Freddie Starr in the Midnighters.
Wasn't it Carlo Little? No.
No. In the Midnight, Freddie Starr and the Midnighters. This
Okay.
drummer was with.
I'll check it.
This drummer was with Freddie Starr, and they were putting a band together. This is before Freddie Starr was really famous. And they were putting a band together to go to Germany. There was this drummer, Ian, a guitarist called Roger Mingay, who used to be
Yeah.
in the Savages, and also Richie. And I was going to play bass. But for whatever reason, that all fell through, so it never really happened. But so that was the first time I met Richie. And then next time I met him, I was an organist. It was
Was it
it was
with
a
Lord
different.
Such?
Yeah, yeah.
So, how do you feel being a part of this, circus with Lord Such?
It was. It really was a lot of fun. I mean, I had a really great time in that band. I mean, we had a lot of, a lot of interesting characters, um, a lot of adventures. Strange things happened. We got stuck. We were in the middle of Germany somewhere, and we got involved in the van, that we were traveling in, got involved with a collision with some old woman on a bicycle or something, and that was it. We were told, right, don't leave town. We were stuck in this town until they sorted out all the legal business. Um, but the other people, there was Carlo, there was Richie, and a guy called Tony Dangerfield. Well, sadly, Carlo and Tony are now both dead. Um, but and there was a Canadian sax
Carlo?
player. Hmm?
Isn't Carlo alive?
No, Carlo died a year or two ago. I can't remember the exact days. Tony was more recent. Tony was last year, I think.
I know about Tony, but I thought Carlo is alive.
No, no.
I didn't check it because I visited his site a couple of days ago just because he has a quote from my review on his first page, and I needed a screenshot.
Let me just see if I can find out. I mean,
I'll try to look at it.
Well, I mean, I think if you just Google Carlo,
yeah, I'll check it. But
it's bound.
Was Lord Such a sweet character, as I heard, or was he a real savage?
No, he was. The funny thing about Dave, people used to ask me. I mean, they always people get weird ideas about people. It was like, for instance, I did quite a bit of work with a wrestler called Brian Maxine,
Mhm.
which I don't know whether you've heard of him. He did some country music, but
I heard of him in connection with you.
well, no, but Brian was one of with wrestling, professional wrestling. It's kind of they play a role. It's like you've either got the good guy or you've got the bad guy. And Brian was always the bad guy that everybody sort of boo. And so when I mentioned to people that I've been working with Brian, they say, "Oh, God, dear, oh me, I wouldn't want to do that." I said, "Oh, he's a really nice guy. I mean, what's the matter?" And it's the same with Dave. Everybody thought Dave was this weird, monstrous, manic kind of, dangerous, freaky, mad person. And people would say, "What's he like?" And I say, "Well, he's the most normal person I've ever met. He really is very, very normal." Um, no, I like the guy. I really did.
You never know what a streak you may find in some person. For example, do you know Dick Hextall Smith from Graham
I
Bond, Colosseum?
Well, I know who he is. I wouldn't say I actually know him. I mean, I've never spoken to him, but I know exactly who he is. I thought he had an alcohol problem, didn't he?
No, not so much, but he died some years ago. But he was a sweet character. He was a scientist because he was involved in political sciences. He has a university degree in that. When he was driving, that was mad.
Oh, right.
That was really mad because when I was in London and he drove me and his manager passed the cemetery, past one cemetery, he said, "And now I'm gonna take you where Vincent Crane of Atomic Rooster lies." No, 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 no! Don't take me to the cemetery. Drive carefully. And,
He was a weird character, wasn't he?
oh, he was an
Uh,
interesting, no, not so not so level-headed as John Heisman. Because
uh,
John Heisman, from Colosseum, he's a really level-headed person.
hmm.
But Dick, he was an interesting character.
No, no, I was talking about you. You mentioned the guy from Atomic Rooster,
Ah, Vincent Crane.
Vincent
Yeah,
Crane, is it?
I heard about him,
Yeah, I
but
heard he.
I never really met him.
No, people told me he sort of used to sometimes totally freak out,
Yeah,
go crazy,
yeah, I heard
and
about that. I heard about
yeah,
that from some other guys who worked with him.
mm. But I liked his playing.
Yeah, playing is one thing, and playing a role is something different. By the way,
Mm.
talking about roles, does the name Obi Clayton ring a bell with you?
Oh yeah, I don't know what the hell that's all about. I don't know why anybody ever thought that was me. I mean, I have heard some of his music, and the first thing I noticed, well, this guy's actually got a good voice, which I haven't. So, I mean, that's one big difference. Secondly, he's not a very good writer, whereas I think I am. So he doesn't write very good melodies. Um, but to me, the clincher is, every one of my records, uh, nearly all the tracks have got an acoustic guitar on. I love an acoustic guitar. You won't hear one acoustic guitar on any of Obi Clayton's things. So with all these clues, how could anyone think that was me? It's
Uh,
it's crazy. And
if some people used to think that some other guy could have passed for Paul McCartney, what with Paul McCartney being a left-handed player. So if everybody thinks McCartney is dead, and he was replaced with somebody who can also play with his left hand and sing like McCartney, so why not think that Obi Clayton was you?
well, as I say, to me, it's just chalk and cheese. You might as well say Jimi Hendrix was me. I mean, it's just completely, totally different, virtually nothing in common at all. I mean, he did a version of the Bobby V song "Take Good Care of My Baby." I thought it was horrible. You know, if I'd recorded a version of that, I think it would have been a bit better.
Sure.
I mean, I may not have sung it that well, but at least I'd have had the backing would have been better, and I'd have got captured the spirit of the song better,
And talking about these arrangements, some of other pieces on your solo albums are close to Procol Harum, I think, in their sonic picture, so to say. Uh, so does that mean that you try to work in that same vein, or that you contributed so much to the Procol Harum sonic picture?
Yes, I would have to say it was the second of those. I never thought I wanted to sound like Procol, but the point is, I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to sort of stop sounding like me just so no one thinks it sounds like Procol. I am me. I have to be me, But to be honest, I don't think Procol Harum does not figure very high on my list of influences. There are all sorts of people. I don't always know who my strong
But
influences are.
I
Okay,
think
I know.
you are very high on their list of influences.
Well, maybe, but I mean, for instance, an example of somebody who was a huge influence on me for years, and I never realized it until suddenly it came to me. It was Roy Orbison. Roy Orbison was a huge influence on me. I just loved his records, but it just because he was so different to me, it never occurred to me that he could have influenced me, but he did very strongly.
You mean as a composer, as a,
Yeah, oh, yes, 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 as a writer.
as a
I mean,
master of ballad? Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, the thing that I really found fascinating about Roy Orbison, in order to, usually for a hit record, you have to have a certain amount of repetition. And this has got worse and worse since the 60s. Um, now once we get to the 90s and the 2000s, it's like the repetition is just getting, people have got an attention span about 3 seconds. So you have to get a 3 second phrase and keep saying it over and over and over again. But Roy Orbison, there's some records he does that haven't got any repetition in at all. It just begins and it just goes on and on and on and on and on, and then you get to the end and it's hardly repeated anything. I mean, he did do some, and Pretty Woman, okay, that was repetitive. Um, but I'm trying to think of one that doesn't repeat at all. Falling, right? I don't think there's much repetition in Falling. It's just it starts and it goes and it always gets higher and higher and higher and higher. Um,
So not
but
surprising with a voice like this.
yeah, I have fantastic range. Um, but no, as I say, I always admired the fact that he could produce something that was really kind of commercial and memorable, and there was no repetition in it. It was his were like they were like operatic arias. You know what I mean? It's just totally he totally broke the rules as far as pop music was concerned.
Yeah, it's hard to say if it was really pop music. It's
Mm,
something more than this. And
mm,
he worked at the same time as Buddy Holly, and he was
mm.
so different from Buddy Holly and from Jerry Lee.
Well, mm, people I always used to feel a bit embarrassed saying that I liked Roy Orbison, because he was considered a bit uncool in the sort of the in the 60s. But I was quite interested to learn. My wife told me she'd been reading something, and Bob Dylan was a big fan of Roy Orbison. I mean, which is interesting because, of course, they ended up in the Traveling Wilburys together. So there you are.
Yeah, together. Yeah,
But apparently, he'd always been a fan of his back in the 60s.
yeah. Maybe he just envied Orbison's voice.
I don't think Dylan has to envy anybody's voice. Yeah, I mean, well, he can envy his own voice as like what it used to be. Dylan had the motorbike accident, was it in 66,
66.
67, and his voice was never really the same after that.
No, I'd
But
say that in the mid 70s, about a Rolling Thunder tour, he had quite a good voice.
I didn't say it wasn't good. I just said it wasn't the same.
Ah, okay.
It's to me,
Point taken.
I mean, no, I won't say I don't like anything he did after then, but I certainly consider him as like two different artists. There's Bob Dylan up to Blonde on Blonde, and there's Bob Dylan after that, and I like both, but I prefer the first one. You
But
know?
what about your voice? I think uh, you know, I heard all of your albums, but it was a long time ago. And now, while I was getting ready for the interview, I re-listened to all of them, and I just forgot how good a singer you are. So did you have a formal training as a singer? Did you take lessons?
No, 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 no. I mean, I've never been very happy about being a singer. I mean, it's just, I guess I just wanted to have a go at being a singer-songwriter, but more as a writer than a singer. I never thought my voice was any good at all. Um, I'm thinking I might try and sort of. I've actually got a book I bought as a matter of interest. I found this book by a singing coach in Los Angeles called Roger Love. He's brought out a book called Set Your Voice Free, and that sounded interesting to me because it's not just about being a singer. It's also about your speaking voice. Maybe if you just want to give better speeches, or it's just about how to get the best out of your voice. And I thought, well, maybe I should try that. And I've already discovered something interesting to do with uh, there's a tendency. He says you shouldn't. Your Adam's apple, right? The larynx. When you sing, you shouldn't. It shouldn't go up when you sing high notes. It should stay down, and that's quite difficult to get used to.
Yeah, from the
It's
to sing from the stomach, from the stomach.
no,
Not
it's nothing. No, that's another thing altogether. That's to do with the breathing. But he's just talking about the sort of the throat, the larynx. Um, and he says what you have to do is you practice talking like Yogi Bear. You know Yogi Bear?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you sort of there's a um, but that if you can talk like that, that gives you the feel for what you've got to try and do with your larynx to stop it rising as you sing higher notes. You've got to it because it's kind of it's blocking your throat up. It means that you're losing all your resonance. When you do that, your voice gets very thin. And my voice is thin to begin with, so I don't really
I
want it to
wouldn't
get
say
any
so.
thinner. Oh, I would. It always. I mean, I actually hate the sound of my voice. Although I have heard that apparently John Lennon didn't like the sound of his voice either. So, which is why I always put all that echo on it. But,
By the way, on your solo album, there is a tune called "Going for a Song." So, was it about White Shade of Pale?
sorry, I didn't hear what you said. A tune called.
Going for a Song.
Oh, going for a song. Yes, now this is one thing that I've always found really strange is that nobody understood that song. It is about Whiter Shade of Pale, but I'm not singing it as me. I'm being Gary because it says, "Don't make me sing that." So, well, I've never sung the song. I played it, and I love
Yeah,
playing it.
sure.
I'll play it anytime anybody wants me to play it. I'll play it. I'm happy to play that song. Um, but I thought I was sort of feeling rather mischievous one day, and I said, I bet Gary gets fed up with having to sing White Shade of Pale all the time, you know. Um, and of course, I was right. I didn't know, but I found out afterwards that I was absolutely right because he stopped singing it for a while. There was a stage in Procol after I left the band. For a while, they stopped doing A Whiter Shade of Pale, and the audiences didn't like it at all. The audience got, really pissed off because they probably that was the only song they wanted to hear, and then they didn't do it, and they were really upset about that. But obviously, Gary did have a hang up about not wanting to, he always had this. Well, he and Keith, they used to have this attitude about that they thought it was most unfair that that was the only song that people liked, and they thought they took it personally. They thought, all our other songs are just as good. Why don't they like them? But the answer is that all the other songs weren't just as good. I mean, I mean, when that first album came out, I remember reading a review of the interviewer, I mean, the reviewer, saying how disappointed he was. This was not a pop magazine. This was more like a hi-fi record magazine, So it's a bit of a different kind of angle here. But the guy saying, yes, well, that record was rather good, wasn't it? But they're not liking. They didn't like any of the other songs at all, And I thought, well, yeah, well, they wouldn't have liked Whiter Shade of Pale either if I hadn't done my bit on it, because it was just like all the other songs before I came along.
So how would you describe your contribution to Procol Harum in terms of sound, in terms of composition?
Um, well, I'd say I gave it a tune. I don't think it had a tune before that. I mean, the vocal melody is not very memorable. The tune that people remember, the tune, they used to have this thing in England, maybe you don't have it in Israel, but they talk about the milkman whistling, the man who brings the milk and puts it on the doorstep, that if he can whistle the tune, then maybe you've got a hit. Well, I don't think the milkman was whistling the skip the light fandango. I think if the milkman was whistling anything, he was whistling my tune, and that's what I mean that's the most obvious thing that I contributed. I think I contributed a lot more than that. I think I completely changed the whole sound of the record. If you
I don't mean only this tune. I mean your contribution to the band as a whole.
Oh, to the band. I, in retrospect, I now think about myself. I would say I was the equivalent for Procol. I was what Brian Jones was for the Stones. Because at the beginning, the early Stones records, this is before Mick and Keith started writing all their songs and really took the whole thing over. But it was actually Brian's band in the beginning. And if you listen to all the early Stones records, where they weren't writing their own songs, they did a Chuck Berry song, they did a Buddy Holly song, I don't know who wrote It's All Over Now. You know what I mean? They were covers. And oh, and of course, I Want to Be Your Man was a Beatles song. But all these early records, you listen to the record, and who is doing the most interesting thing on the record? Brian Jones. He's playing slide guitar.
His guitars.
He's playing harmonica.
His grooves. I mean, it was his grooves, his sitars, his guitars.
I mean, then when, as I say, when Mick and Keith started writing their songs and they didn't really need Brian anymore, and he was sort of like, he was kind of falling apart anyway at that point, too many drugs or whatever. It is very sad, but I mean, as I say, I've always thought of myself as being the equivalent. I did for Procol what Brian Jones did for them. The Stones would never have become an established band long enough for Mick and Keith to get their writing act together without Brian Jones. And Procol would never have become established without me.
But unlike Brian, who didn't contribute to the composition, you wrote songs such as Pilgrim's Progress, you know, that is an integral part of the legacy.
It's difficult for me to judge that. I mean, to be honest, if I think of Procol, I mean, there's only one song, really. I think it's funny the idea of Procol putting out an album, called Procol Harum's Greatest Hits. They should just put out a single and call it Procol Harum's Greatest Hit. I mean, they're a one-song band. That's all they ever will be. And I suppose I enjoyed a lot of the times I spent playing with them from a musical point of view. I have to distinguish between what is commercial and what I actually enjoy. I mean, when I said about the first album that other people not liking the other material, I liked it. I always did like the songs that Keith and Gary wrote. But if we're being brutally honest and saying, well, yeah, but were they commercial? No, they weren't. They weren't commercial. They were just interesting to somebody maybe like me. Well, there's a few people. They've got a cult following. There are certain people that like what they do, but they're not commercial. Never were.
And was it interesting to you to work in this two keyboard situation? Was it a challenge? Was it a game? What was it for you?
Well, that's an interesting point. There are certain, some keyboard players, I would probably find it difficult to work with because they'd be sort of doing too much. I wouldn't be able to find any space. Other keyboard players, it's just, I can tell what they're doing and I know what I can do that will go with what they're doing. But there was always this kind of musical chemistry between me and Gary. I could always, well, not always, but 99 times out of 100, I could always find something good to go with what he was playing, to complement it, to sort of give it another little dimension. It's no, it worked well between us from the dual keyboard point of view.
Didn't you want for a while, for just maybe once, to switch the tables that you tried the piano and he would play organ?
I think the only time we did that, I think was when I'm trying to think whether it was certain songs. I don't know whether I don't think I did it on Pilgrim's Progress. I think it was in the Autumn of My Madness. I just didn't feel I could play the organ and sing at the same time. It's just that the organ is playing a very dramatic part there. It comes in suddenly halfway through the verse, playing really loud, and then fades down again, and it's just, and it was just to do that and sing at the same time was just too much, splitting my mind up into two different pieces. So we used to swap round. I would go to piano, where there was a microphone, of course, set up already. And Gary would play organ just because for that reason. But no, there was no other. Okay, well, all right, I did do that fast piano bit on Record the Hesperus, but we never did Record the Hesperus live anyway. So.
But you mean you did so live or in the studio with the Autumn of My Madness?
In the studio, Gary didn't play on it at all. But now that caused a little bit of. Not everyone who was around there was very happy about that. But no, it's just I put the track down and I was using a piano as a guide, and then I overdubbed the organ. And then somebody said, well, how about should we put Gary on a piano? And Denny Cordell said, well, no, we got a good piano. Why mess with it? That's okay.
Is it true that you didn't join the band before White Shade of Pale took chart action?
Uh, no, that's not true at all. I don't know where you got that from.
From newspaper clippings, you know.
Oh, well, I've read all sorts of things. There's some guy, some idiot's done some sort of like a PhD thesis about the whole business of Whitey Shade of Pale, and he seems to think that at one time I got sacked. I was never ever sacked by Procol. I mean, I I left Procol and I rejoined them quite a few times, and I can tell you, every time I left, that was my idea. Every time I came back, that was their idea.
Uh,
I never went and said, "Please, can I rejoin the band?"
y-
And they never ever told me to go.
you mentioned Danny Cordell. Was it through him that you did a session with Joe Cocker?
Yeah, it's yeah, it was just an album track. It was they did a version of Just Like a Woman, which was pretty well a copy of the Richie Havens version. I mean, they just stole the entire arrangement. It's just that Joe's one's got an organ on which I'm playing, which the Richie Havens version doesn't. But no, that was interesting. It was with Jimmy Page playing guitar, acoustic guitar on that.
So,
But I was there. It was at the same session that they did with a little help from my friends, but I didn't play on that.
and
Um,
did you meet a lot of other players while working with Jerry Lee Lewis?
um, I don't think I met too many people I hadn't already met before. Um,
Rory Gallagher, Elvin Lee?
Oh, I didn't meet them. No, I met Rory Gallagher when we did the Echoes in the Night album years later with Gary. Um, no, I don't think I ever met Alvin Lee. Um, the but the people like Tony Ashton and Chas Hodges. I mean, I'd met them already.
What about your work with? Okay, let's keep out Wishbone Ash. It was just one session, but of all people, Captain Sensible.
Well, Captain. I mean, yeah, I don't think I don't think I ever played anything on his stuff. I don't remember playing anything. No, really, he just used my studio. That's all it was. I was just the engineer, and the studio manager, if you like. Um, he was because he lived in Croydon, um, same as me, and I suppose he'd found me in the Melody Maker. Um, and it could be that perhaps he'd been banned from the other local Croydon studio, or that maybe no, maybe it was just because I was 24 track and the other place was only 16 track. But anyway, he turned up, but I'd never even heard of him. I didn't know who he was. He rang me up on the telephone and said he wanted to come and look at the studio, and but he was very sort of evasive, and he just said, "Oh, well, it's my name is Mr. Burns," he said. Mr. Burns. Okay. So I thought, oh, all right, okay, well, come along. You can come tonight, 7 o'clock, we'll be here. So Captain turned up and walked in, and straight away there were some people in the studio working there. And as soon as they saw him, they all said, "Oh, hello, Captain," And I thought, why are they calling this guy Captain? Where did that come from? So it wasn't until afterwards that I found out that, well, no, his stage name was Captain Sensible, and that he was in a member of the Damned. I'd heard of the Damned, but I didn't really know much about them at all. Um, but no, that was an interesting. That was an interesting collaboration, and I have to say that Captain is a lot more talented than people realize. He's a very, very musical guy, actually, but he sort of hides it well.
And what about Wishbone Ash?
I don't remember that. I mean, I maybe did this was all to do with Derek Lawrence, I think. Um, I wish I could remember the name of that drummer I was talking about because I ran into him with again with these sessions. Um, um, but yeah, no, there was various people that I used to sort of play with. The Derek Lawrence used to get these. You know, he was the original producer for Deep Purple, and he used to do these sessions. Often, more often than not, he'd have Ian Pace on drums, and you know, all sorts of other people. Um, there were strange records. I think they put this thing was put out under the name of Green Bullfrog.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there at all the sessions. You see, there were some sessions that were done there where apparently he had three guitarists all playing at once. He had Ritchie, uh, Albert Lee, as opposed to Alvin Lee, you know, and
Oh,
Big Jim
I think
Sullivan.
he's the greatest British country player, country rock player,
Well,
Albert Lee.
what Albert?
Yeah.
Oh, Albert, fantastic! Yeah, yeah, no, he's great. He's quite unbelievable. Well, he was with that. I mean, he was at the Jerry Lee Lewis sessions. I think with Chas Hodges. He was in a band with Chas Hodges for a while called, I think it was called Head, Hands and Feet or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Right.
Hmm.
Exactly. But David Bowie, did you tour with him?
No, people keep saying that. They know. I did two gigs at the Rainbow Theatre in London, Finsbury Park, back in 1972, just around the time of the Ziggy Stardust, you know, when Starman was a hit and everything, you know.
Wasn't it the same concert where Jeff Beck joined him on stage? No?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Wasn't it the same concert where Jeff Beck joined Bowie on stage?
No, no, that was Hammersmith Odeon.
Ah.
I was there, but only in the audience. I wasn't playing there.
No, I know another guy who played with Bowie. It's Trevor Bolder, his bass player.
Oh, bass player, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trevor Bolder. He's in Uriah Heep now for many
Oh, is
years.
he? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Oh,
Ah, because
we're
I
in
know Mick
touch.
Ronson
He's a
is.
good guy. But, so it was only two gigs with Bowie, yeah?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
And
No,
yeah. By
it
the
was
way,
a fascinating experience. The support band, by the way, was a up and coming little known band called Roxy Music.
so, I always wanted to ask you: did you hear the original version of John Lennon's "Imagine," the first take? Did you hear that?
I think I might have done.
It is
I
on.
know there's some sort of outtake.
Yes, it's on John Lennon anthology, and the thing is, he was so much influenced by Procol Harum that the original version was organ-driven, not
Oh, I
piano-driven.
don't think I've heard that.
So,
No,
so,
I think
so
this is another take.
I think that you should know that you somehow influenced even Lennon.
Um, I know he liked the record, but you don't know. I don't know exactly what it was about the record that he liked. You can never be sure. I mean, might have liked something about the record that I don't even consider important, you know, or I just don't know.
But it was organ. It was organ because the first take was organ-driven. So
Yeah, but are you talking about the sound or are you talking about the melody line?
I'm talking about the sound because his Imagine and White Shade of Pale has nothing in common in terms of melody, but in terms of arrangement of Imagine's first take, yes, it was organ.
Oh, I'll have to try and find that because I've never heard a version of Imagine with organ on.
It's on John Lennon's anthology, a box
Hmm.
set, the box set of 1999, something like
Hmm.
this. If you want, I can find it and send it to you.
Oh, I think I could find it. I mean, I could probably find it on Spotify or something like that.
Perhaps, but with being so much famous for this organ playing, how did it happen that you're not in demand as a session player now? Uh, I mean, I would think that everybody would want you to play on their record and not doing computers.
Well, a few people do. I recently actually did some organ for a guy from the Flaming Groovies called Chris Wilson. He had an album out, I think it was called Love Over Money or something, but I play on one track there. But the band is actually getting back together and they're doing another album now, just as the whole band. And I've been sent a track that they like me to play on. And I have to say, it's a great song. I mean, I'm really looking forward to doing that. You know, it's going to, I think it could create a lot of interest, that track.
But it's not that you get asked every day to play on someone else's records.
Well, no, I mean, to be honest, it's difficult with me because I'm not really a session man. I mean, not in the way that sort of like Rick Wakeman used to be. I can't be guaranteed always to come up with a great part. I mean, it has to touch me in some way. The music, it has to sort of really think, hit the old button, and I go, yeah, yeah, I can do this. But if it doesn't, I probably wouldn't do anything very good at all. You know, if it doesn't spark me, if it doesn't touch something in me, then I'll just sort of say, well, sorry, I'm afraid I just can't think of anything to play. You know.
And what about you having a spark to do another solo album? Can we hope for it?
Not. I would say not in the next year or so. I would say. I think it's going to take me a little longer than that. As I said, I'm feeling there's a few issues I have to deal with, and I'm just not in the right. I'm not in the right place right now to do that. But I'm, I do want to one day. I do want to write some more songs. I do want to make another album. It's a little bit difficult these days because, it's not like it was in the 70s,
Yeah, yeah. You tell
where
me. I'm
anyone,
trying to break it as a lyricist, and it's hard.
well, I mean, yes, but I mean, I'm not talking about breaking. I mean, in the 70s, if you'd ever been in any kind of well-known band, you could pretty well get a record deal somewhere. It was never that hard. Now it's really hard. People say, well, what have you done in the last 6 months? Never mind what you did 40 years ago. We're not interested in that. It's just like, um, the but the when it comes to sort of people like me, I mean, people that go back to the 60s, um, I don't know whether people are very interested in new stuff. They like the old stuff. This is where like Angel Air are really doing well because they just do reissues. And that's what people want. They've worn out their old vinyl albums. They maybe even worn out their CDs. They want a new CD, and Angel Air are providing all that. They've got an incredible catalog.
But did you ever play a solo gig?
Uh, I think it's yeah. I've done about two, both in Greece. And neither of them was with a band. It was just with backing tapes, or what are tapes, CDs. I don't even know whether you can do that in this country. I have an idea you might get into trouble, but in Greece you can get away with it. But no, I've
John
never.
Wetton did that in America. Steve Howe does it.
Well, just do backing tracks. Well, surely you have to pay the musicians. I mean, don't the
Yeah,
musicians make a?
they have the backing tracks to solo over
Uh-huh.
and sing over. So why not?
Well, I mean, it's got to. I'd have thought there'd be a way of making it that would be good for the musicians and would be good for the artist. Yeah, I mean, everybody makes more money. The musicians just sit at home and the checks come through the door. And the artist doesn't have to sort of rehearse and doesn't have to sort of pay hotels for a whole band and all the rest of it. Yeah, no, I can see that if it could be, if a deal could be worked out with the musicians, I think it's good for everybody. Although whether it's good for the audience, I don't know. I think maybe for the audience, they would want to see,
And
they'd rather see a band on stage.
that's the music. And do the words, the lyrics, important to you?
The obvious lyrics are obviously important. I've never thought I was very good at writing
But
lyrics.
I'd say
Uh,
that play the game sounds like your personal motto.
well, yes, but you can only do that a certain number of times. Once you've written that song, you've written it. You can't just keep writing it over and over again. It's difficult, but I mean and I have a different kind of um, uh, view on lyrics to, we'll say, I mean, the Procol Harum. I mean, I don't particularly want lyrics to be uh, poetic or clever, or they just have to sound good. That's. But even so, although I like a lot of songs that have got really meaningless lyrics that just sort of go, "Oh yeah, baby, feel all right," all that. But I can't write words like that because I'd feel stupid sort of coming up with words like that. That are just cliches.
But did you connect with Keith Reed's poetry?
I like Keith's words. I like them more in the early days than I do now, and that's not because my feelings towards Keith have changed, which maybe they have, but that's not the reason.
No,
It's
now
just,
they're much simpler now.
um, well, I mean, he kind of, like all people, I think he goes through phases. Keith did go through some very negative phases. This is what I never understood about Keith, or Gary for that matter, that, after A Whiter Shade of Pale, I mean, they had all this success, they had all this money, all this fame, all this glory, all this credit, and it didn't seem to make them very happy. I mean, Keith, I remember, got very, very, he changed overnight. Suddenly became this very negative, uh, depressed kind of person. I mean, well, maybe there were other things going on in his life, I don't know, but it, it certainly didn't make him happy. And I think Gary always had issues as well. The sort of, he didn't like being stamped with just a one hit record. Um, it's funny. It's like
Talking
uh,
about lyrics, I'd say it's the same with Bernie Taupin, because what he did in the 70s and what he's doing now, it's much simpler. It's not the
mhm.
same, I think maybe it has to do with age, and with ideas. Because when you're young, you have so many ideas. And now you're getting used to life. Maybe that's because of that.
Well, I've never really, as I said, it's difficult talking to me about lyrics because it's always been a sticking point with me. I've never felt very comfortable about writing lyrics. And I think as I get older, I've got less and less idea of what I really want to say lyrically. I mean, I don't really. I know what I want to say musically. That's not a problem. I know exactly what I want to say musically, but what I want to say lyrically, I just don't know. I think I need a bit of help on that. Maybe I need to team up with another lyric writer.
So
Because I
you can count on me.
what do you
No,
write
because
lyrics?
Andy Fraser he likes what I do in terms
Oh,
of
I
lyrics.
see. Well, yeah, you can always send me. You've got my email. You can always send me stuff if you like.
So
But I've never have actually. There's very few people that I've ever really managed to write lyrics with. The one exception, Chris White. Um, we've written lyrics together. I mean, he and I actually really get on well that way because it's like, I mean, some of the songs we've written together, he's basically written all the lyrics and I haven't written any. Some I've written most of the lyrics, but he's just kind of come in and changed a few words and made it better, you know. Or sometimes
I'm always trying to write it both phonetically as well as in terms of meaning, because to me they should be sung. That's the difference between poetry and lyrics.
yeah, well, that's it. Like Bjorn in ABBA, he's very into that.
Yeah, but
The
as I always say, talking for instance, mentioning Ian Anderson from
Mhm.
Jethro Tull. So I say I'd kill for the line such as "Glory, glory seekers." It's a $1 million line. "Glory, glory seekers."
Oh well, I mean, if you want $1 million lines, I mean, Dylan is full of them.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, there's one I just picked up on after years of listening. I'd never noticed it, but in there's a line in the song called "Visions of Johanna,"
Hmm.
where he talks about jewels and binoculars. What a great jewels and binoculars! It's just wonderful sound, you know, those words. Don't ask me what they mean, but it's just a great sound, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, may I ask if you talked about Gary and Keith? I think it's a personal matter, so you can refuse to answer. But what's your relation now after that lawsuit that you won?
I don't have a relationship. I'm sure, you know, Gary would, no, he would not want to speak to me. He would not want to see me. The only communication we have is that he has to send me checks every now and then because various royalties, not, I hasten to add, royalties for playing on Whiter Shade of Pale. I get not a penny for my playing. I'm now getting money for the songwriting, but I've never had money for playing on that record. Um, and you know, songs that he publishes with his publishing company, and production royalties from the Salty Dog album, which I produced. He has to send me checks for that, and so every now and then, every now and then, I get a little communication from him. But whereas before the lawsuit, it would say, "Dear Matthew," now it says nothing.
So,
Okay,
so,
so
so,
does that answer your question?
another invitation for any kind of reunion is out of question now.
Uh, yeah, from Gary's point of view, yes. I mean, to me, I mean, I'm an old softy. I'll forgive and forget. You know, I don't. You know, I'm always ready to sort of bury the hatchet, shake hands, whatever. But not Gary and Keith. I think is has similar feelings as well, but well, there's more to this which I can't really tell you right now.
So, getting back on track and to not to take so much of your time, uh, if we talk about your solo career, what would you name the highest point of it? What's your favorite thing of your own?
Well, I'm again, it's very difficult for me to judge my own stuff. I know for a fact that there are an awful lot of people that really like Journey's End. I don't. It's okay, it's got some good ideas in it, but I generally I generally find it rather embarrassing, that album. It's the album.
I
The
vote
album.
for I'll Be There.
Oh, really? That's interesting because everybody hates that one. Um, I've got mixed feelings about I'll Be There. I think it was done too soon after Journey's End. I should have had a bit more of a rest. There were all sorts of things that went wrong with that. We went off. I mean, for a start, I had this manager who was convinced that I was going to make a fortune out of my solo albums. He thought Journey's End was going to be a huge hit, and he decided that what we should do is record the next album outside the UK. So he went off to Italy in a studio that I didn't know, where I didn't speak the language, and with a couple of musicians that I hadn't really got to know, and it was all pretty uncomfortable, and it turned out to be completely wasted time because Journey's End didn't sell a million, and I was not going to be in a huge income tax bracket, as a result of that. It was just the whole thing was pointless. Um, so but there are things I like about I'll Be There, but no, the one I really like is the last one, Strange Days. That's to me is the one that I feel most comfortable with. But that's probably the one that did the worst, mainly because it it just wasn't promoted. The record company just didn't get behind it at all. If any record company has ever got behind any of my records, I don't know. I think Peter Purnell has got behind Salty Dog Returns. I'll say that. I'm very happy with what he's doing. But my experiences with major record labels are not very, not very happy. I mean, these people, it's kind of when they think you're going to sell some records, everybody's your best friend, and then when it doesn't work out that way, suddenly you ring them up and oh, he's in a meeting. You you can never even speak to the guy, and this same guy was pestering you all the time, a couple of weeks ago. They're very insincere people.
So are you happy now living the life you live with not so much music in it?
Um, I'm still, as I say, I'm in kind of a halfway house. There are issues that I need to solve, which really I don't want to talk about too much. I'm looking forward to a time when all my affairs are kind of settled and everything is really the way I want it, and I can spend my time doing exactly what I want to do. But I haven't got there yet. There's a few hurdles to get over yet.
Okay, so Matthew, thanks a lot for your time.
Mhm.
I'll send you a transcript for proofreading
Mhm.
be- be-
You,
be- before
I take it you've been recording this, right?
uh, on 3 recorders.
Yeah, but you're not recording the video, are you?
No,
Oh, right, okay. 'Cause-
no.
yeah.
I will print it, post it on my site.
Uh-huh.
So it will be with your. I think I'll ask you for some pictures, perhaps,
Hmm.
but not. There wouldn't be video. No.
Hmm. Well, obviously, you must know that the pictures on the Salty Dog Returns album, they were contemporary with at the time I was doing the record. That.
Oh, I'll ask you to send me the pictures from all over your career. Which ones you like? Which ones?
I don't have I don't have too many. I'm just saying that if you look at those pictures on the Salty Dog Returns, I don't look like that anymore. I mean that they were 20, 25 years ago.
But I think you have something more recent. Taken on iPhone, something like that.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just warning you that they're not pictures. They're not modern pictures. The ones on that album.
No, no.
That's all I'm saying.
I'll ask you to send me what you like, and you'll send me what you like, and whenever you like.
Okay then.
So thanks a lot for your time. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Well, thank you.
Hey, bye.
Goodbye.